you to try to join an elite faction of the Dauntless. I just, in a way, I think of them as like a post-apocalyptic Navy SEALs. Bravery is required to join Dauntless, so we see two tests that the recruits have to complete, and that they have to make two very scary leaps. The first leap is pretty scary on its own, as they have to jump off a moving train onto a roof. But the second leap is even scarier because all they're told is you have to jump off this roof into a very large hole. What makes this leap scary, in addition to the fact that it's a long way down from where they are, is that they have no idea where this jump is going to take them. They do not know if they will be safe or not. They could be jumping into a large body of water, or there might not be anything there but the cold, hard ground. This leap could kill them. But Trish goes first in an effort to prove herself to the rest of the group. She jumps off the roof into the hole and lands in a nice big safety net. Her leap of faith allows her to be part of Dauntless, and it also showed to her how strong she truly was. Next slide, please. Surely you've all heard the term taking a leap of faith. It is a very appropriate term, as when we act in faith, it's really scary. As I've told people, it's called a leap of faith, not a tiptoe of faith. To take a leap, one must be willing to leave where they're at. They must propel themselves forward, hoping that they land safely. Sometimes these leaps are small, but in many cases these leaps are big and could possibly lead to getting hurt, like we saw in the movie Clint. But it can also hurt in other ways as well, like when you try to have faith in someone who betrayed you. But having faith means that you believe you're going to be okay, even if you cannot see the outcome of your leap. Trish believed she was going to be okay. Why else would she have jumped if she didn't feel it? Trish believed that Dauntless was something she needed to be a part of, and trusted that they were not setting her up for failure. The legendary passages for this week show us how we are to have that same mindset when it comes to following God. In the Old Testament passage, we read the story of Abram. He was what we call Abraham at this time. And many of us know this story, but it's always good to go over it again. Abram had a pretty good life. He was living in the land of Ur, which is now in modern-day Iraq. He's grown a little, he's grown older, but he's had a successful life. He's got flocks and a beautiful wife, everything a person could want. And then all of a sudden, at the ripe old age of 75, God says, yeah, Abram, that's nice, but I want you to go to the land of Canaan. And there I will bless you even more than you can dream of. And the thing about this journey is it's not an easy journey, because you have Ur here, you have Canaan here, and in the midst of all this is desert. So they couldn't just go straight across. Abraham had to go all the way around what is called the Fertile Crescent. So this is a long journey. It's not like they had cars, not like they had planes. This is a caravan, camels, everything, bumpy roads, robbers along the way. I mean, this is not fun. And I don't know about you, but most people would balk at this offer. I have it pretty good, and you're telling me to uproot everything, uproot my family, uproot all this, and go to this place I've never seen or heard of, and just believe that you're going to make a great nation out of me. But Abram does not, and he believes that God has a great plan for him, and will take care of it. Next slide, please. Oh, no, I'm not there yet. Go back. That's my fault. So Abram sets off along with Sarai and his nephew Lot on a journey. And up to this point in the story, it's been a rough one. Abram is forced to go down to Egypt right along the way. I don't know about you. The thing I hate most about road trips are the pit stops, the unplanned stops, right? I don't know about you. I'm all about making good time. So, like, right away, Abram's like, all right, let's get everything going around the road, let's get moving, and then right away, he's got to stop and actually go kind of in the opposite direction of Egypt. Because there was a great famine in the area, and they needed to be a place where there were resources and stuff. There was water, such as Abram has a beautiful wife, Sarai, and he is scared that they're going to see his wife, and that they're going to want her for themselves, and they're going to kill him in the process. So to prevent that, he tells people she's his sister. And obviously they find out that's not the case, and the locals throw him out because of it. So that happens right off the bat. He also looks at going with his beloved nephew Lot, and Lot is also a wealthy person and has a lot of flocks and sheep. The problem is that they have to share resources, and there wasn't enough resources to share. So they have to split apart from each other. So, and then right after that, Lot gets kidnapped by some people, and then Abram's got to go in and get rescued from kidnappers. So it'd be fair to say that Abram is probably pretty discouraged at this time and wondering, what in the heck has he gotten himself into? I was happy in Earth. What is going on here? And plus, the big thing, there's a huge glaring fact that Abram needs to face. How can he have descendants? How can he have this great nation come out of him if he doesn't have any children? Because him and Sarah are not your children. And once again, that's 75. Science tells us that that's not going to happen. So Genesis 15, Abram pours out his heart to God and asks for reassurance that he's doing the right thing. And how does God respond? God reiterates the promise that a great nation will descend from Abram, and then goes on to say that he's also going to have a son. And I just want to repeat that, because once again, we know the story. A lot of us have heard the story as kids. Where God tells 75-year-old Abram not only to continue on this journey to a place he has never seen, but that he is also, him and Sarah, are going to have a child. I don't think many people would have blamed Abram for going back to Ur and forgetting his whole earth. I mean, what God is asking Abram to do is pretty crazy. But what does Abram do? He decides to take that leap and believe that God will take care of him. And what happened as a result of this faith? Verse 6 tells us that God took Abram's faith and credited it to him as righteousness. I absolutely love that verse, because it's a foreshadowing of our own salvation. Abram was a pretty good person, but he had his flaws. And as you read through his story throughout Genesis, you see some of those flaws pop up. But it's his faith in God alone, his willingness to take that leap, that justifies him. Abram's faith fills in the gaps he has. And as we know in the story, God does provide him a son. 25 years later, by the way. So once again, the faith that it would take to do that. Hit 80, hit 90. You're thinking that your life's nearing an end. As his child, Abram stood strong. Even though he had his moments, overall he stood strong. He gets Isaac, and the nation of Israel comes out of his lineage. Next slide, please. One of Abraham's ancestors, you might know him, goes by the name of Jesus, or not ancestors, descendants, had his own journey he had to go on. In the gospel lesson today, Jesus is on a journey to Jerusalem, when he is told along the way that he needs to go somewhere else, as Herod, who was the king of the province of Judea, wants to have him killed. And it's important to remember that this is the exact same Herod that had John the Baptist killed. So this is not just an empty threat. But how does Jesus respond? Well, he tells the Pharisees that he's going to continue on his journey. As you see, but the funny thing is, unlike Abraham, Jesus knew exactly where he was going. He knew that his journey was going to lead him to the cross. Christ is the ultimate example of faith, and that Christ continues on even though he knows he's going to die through some death. His trust in God the Father exceeds any fear, any material comfort, all of it. But here's the thing. Christ's journey does not end on the cross. In Luke 13:32, Jesus states that on the third day he will reach his goal, which is alluding to the resurrection. For Christ's death was only a stop on the journey, not the destination. Christ had faith and believed he was doing what his Father wanted, and that is why Jesus is now exalted in heaven, where he sits at the Father's right hand, interceding on our behalf. But at this moment in time, at this passage, Jesus wasn't there yet. You see, he still had work to do on his route to Jerusalem. What work was that? Well, Luke 13:32 tells us that it included driving out demons and healing people. Basically, Christ was called to have a ministry of healing and deliverance everywhere he went. And that is what he is doing as he makes that faithful trek to the cross. Next slide, please. What many of us fail to realize is that as Christians, we are called to a similar journey as Jesus. Just like Jesus, we are called to die to ourselves. But we are also human, which means day is going to come that we will die. But just like with Jesus, that is not the end of the journey, but only a stop along the way. And that is at the heart of our epistle passage this week. And to get a better grasp on this passage, let's first put it in true historical context. We know the story of Paul. He was essentially, and no, for lack of a better term, he was a terrorist who killed Christians out of religious zeal, up until that fateful day when Jesus stopped him in his tracks and revealed himself to Paul. And from then on, Paul was put on his own journey. And just like Abraham and Jesus, it was one in which he was to spread the gospel, plant churches, and essentially help get Christianity off the ground. But Paul had a lot of obstacles along the way. I mean, you just go through the book of Acts, you read about a lot of them. Persecution of all sorts. He was stoned almost to death, imprisoned multiple times. And in fact, Paul writes this letter, what we're reading today, Paul wrote that while he was in jail. So it's interesting that in 3:17, Paul tells the Philippians to be like him. I mean, I don't think many parents tell us to tell their children to be like someone in jail. But Paul goes on to tell people that there are people out there who are enemies of the cross, those who don't want to hear the gospel. Paul states that these people are fixated on earthly things and calls the church to be fixated on heavenly things. Obviously, the hard part about that is with earthly things, it's tangible. We see it. We can see food, we can see money, we can see those things. Heavenly things, we see are not in this realm. Paul takes it even one step further in verse 20, when he states that our citizenship is in heaven. And you see, this is actually really important because the city of Philippi was part of the Roman Empire. So the overwhelming majority of Philippians were Roman citizens, which had a certain level of prestige attached to it. And Paul, who also was a Roman citizen, tells them to look past what they have now into what they have in the future. There's a place in heaven with Christ who will transform their humble bodies to be like his glorious body. Hence, this is what Paul enthusiastically continued that journey up until the moment he was beheaded for his faith. But once again, there was only one stop. Next slide, please. So during this Lenten season, you need to be asking yourself this question. Am I fixated on earthly or heavenly things? Am I like Jesus and Paul, focusing on ministering to those around me as I walk on the journey? Do I trust in God, even when I do not see where God is taking me? Or am I clinging to what I can see, what is comfortable? Brothers and sisters, I challenge you to take a leap of faith this Lenten season if you have not already. I can't promise you that your life's going to get easier. Honestly, it's probably going to get harder. Or that you're even going to see rewards while you're on this earth. But what I can promise you is that God will guide you along the journey. Yes, we are called to take leaps of faith. But thankfully, Christ is our Savior.